Good morning, folks. We're back out at Dad's shop today, and we're getting back to work on the John Deere 1.5 horse hit and miss engine that I did 2-3 videos ago. And today and tomorrow I'm going to be working on this, and hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow have this running. There's a few things we need to do. We're going to get the back cover put back on. We'll drain the oil out, fill it up with fresh oil. I had taken the Magneto off, and I was going to do the old Magneto Delito trick and just set it up to run off of a coil, but I ended up buying a Magneto, so we're going to be putting the new Magneto back on there. I'm going to scrape all these gasket surfaces that are bad and get good clean surfaces, and then I'm just going to make my gaskets with some black RTV. In the past, the engines with covers like this that we put new gaskets on still leak as bad after we put the new gaskets in as they did before, so I'm going to try my luck at just RTV in it and see if we can get it sealed up good. But first things first, got this Magneto. I'm not going to show the guy's name on here, but he wrote me a really nice handwritten letter. It says, I rebuilt 3 John Deere engines, 6 horse, 3 horse, and 1.5. These are leftover. I have no use for them. The mag is probably 60 years old at least. I cleaned it all up, then had it professionally checked out with a guy in Portland, Oregon. Had to ship it to him. He is very good. I even had him recharge the magnet. It should be in perfect condition to just go on an engine. I also included a plate for mounting the mag. Again, just no use for it. If you're not completely happy, let me know. That is the first time I've bought something off eBay and got a handwritten letter. The guy had spray foam all around it. I've already unpackaged it and looked at it. It had spray foam all around everything in there. And the Magneto does indeed look brand new. It has been gone through. It also came with, this is the extra plate, that's the backing plate that goes in behind there to bolt it to the motor. I don't need that, but I'll save it. It's a good spare part. And it did show this in the listing, it came with a whole governor gear and assembly. So I'll save that. I don't know, that might be something I end up reselling too. We do have one other John Deere engine, but it doesn't need any parts, so might end up reselling that. But this Magneto, let's get a close-in shot here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it well or not, but I hooked up a jumper wire on it when I unpackaged it the other day. There we go. I don't know if the camera can see that, but it's definitely throwing some sparks. I just had to get everything lined up and wiggle my wires around a little bit more there. But it's definitely making some sparks, so I believe the guy when he says that he had it gone through, everything on it looks absolutely brand new. So I think we ended up getting a good Magneto, and I got it for very cheap. I think only one other person even bid on it for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm grateful that I did get it, and I got it for a very good price. Okay, I'm gonna get all this old gasket peeled off of here. Get the gasket surface cleaned up good so that we can hopefully not leak too much oil once this thing's back put together and running. We've got a couple of Stover engines that we've replaced all the gaskets and felts in, and our other John Deere, and every one of them still leaks oil, so I think I'm going to do just as well with my RTV Sealer as I would have if I bought gaskets for it. It is a good sign that the crankcase, you can see down here in the bottom of the crankcase, is still full of oil. So that means that the divider plate between the crankcase and the fuel tank is holding. So we're not going to have to break it down and replace that or put new gaskets in there. That is typically almost always has to be done. It leaks all the oil out down into the fuel tank, but the fuel tank is got no oil in the bottom of it. It actually, when we got it, it had a little bit of rainwater in it. When we set it up on end, a little bit of water ran out. So I've left the cap off, let it dry, and it's bone dry in there now. And as long as it doesn't leak, we'll be in good shape there. Now I'm gonna see if I can get the Magneto bolted in here. Camera around here and show. The bolts go into the Magneto straight in from the bottom over here. There's two bolts that come, no matter what I do you can't see well, two bolts that come straight up from the bottom in here. They're kind of difficult to get to. We'll get those two bolts put in there. So let's see if I can get these two bolts stuck back in here. They are definitely in a poor place to try to get your fingers into. They gotta go clear back up in there and then straight up through a hole into the bottom of the Magneto. Okay, we got the Magneto on there. It's all bolted on. The nuts tightened up on there. Everything turns just as it should. Before I start putting this back together, I'm going to drain that oil out. That way I can spray everything down with some brake parts cleaner to flush out any chunks that are in there. So I got to find a little pan that I can put underneath here. Okay, let's see if anything comes out of here when we take the drain plug off. Well, not very darn much. We'll get a piece of wire or something to run in through there and break up the sludge in the bottom. Okay, see if we can stick that in there. Well, that still ain't coming out very fast, and I know there's oil in there. Ooh. Oh yeah, that's making a mess. We're catching about 30% of it. That's better than nothing.
20.
I don't know if I can get that pan to kind of go in underneath the flywheel there. Oh yeah, that's the way I should have done it in the first place. Now it's underneath there where it might catch all of it. Maybe. There we go, you can see back in there. I'm catching more of it than I'm letting run out on the table at this point. We're going to let all that old oil in there drain out, and then I got some pieces of the gasket that fell down in there. I'll get them fished out of there, and then I'll spray a whole bunch of brake parts cleaner through there and clean everything up good. Try to get all the old oil sludge rinsed out of the bottom there. Then when we're done with that, we'll get back in here and we'll put the cover back on. I'll put the cover on and just snug the bolts down finger tight. Let it sit with that black RTV sealer on it until tomorrow. Then I'll come in and torque them all down hopefully we'll have nothing leak. Okay, we're back out at Dad's shop. It's afternoon now. I got a little sidetracked this morning. Had to go buy a car. I'm not going to say much about it.
You'll see it.
But it will be coming up in future videos for sure. So we had to take a break this morning and go do that. But we're going to go ahead and get this RTV sealer on here so that hopefully it can have a chance to be setting up good. I'm pretty sure I said earlier, but the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to put a thin layer of this on there, and I'm going to bolt it down just finger tight, and I'm going to leave it set until tomorrow when it's had a chance to cure, then come back and torque the bolts down. That way it'll kind of smash this down a little bit after it's had a chance to set up a little bit more. Okay, we got the cover bolted back on here. I just got it loosely bolted on, just finger tight. Magneto's bolted on. Side cover is on over here. Everything just finger tight. Squish the RTV out. Tomorrow I'll take a razor blade, trim off all that excess RTV, and then bolt everything down good and tight. And tomorrow we can put the fuel line back in and put some oil in this, put some gasoline in it, and we might be to the point where we can crank on this thing and see if it's going to fire or not. Okay, it's tomorrow. We're back out at the shop. I got tightened down all the bolts on the crank cover, tightened down all the straight head screw bolts that go into the side cover plate. Found the plug wire that was on here, I guess not plug wire, the igniter wire that was on here when I bought it. It's good enough to run the engine. I think I put the fuel line back on. We don't have a plug in it, so I can't put any water in it, but I'm not going to do that until I can get it outside where I can run the hose through there and get the rest of the debris out of the hopper. So I think I'm ready to go out, grab my gas can out of the truck, grab a quart of oil to put in it, and we're going to see if this thing will try to run or not. Well, I don't know exactly how much oil this is supposed to hold, but I think that, like most of them, the owner's manual said to fill it to overflowing, which is probably exactly what I'll end up doing here. If I had a oil can with a squirt nozzle, like a nozzle off of the Lucas additive or something, it's a lot easier because then you can see right down in there as you're putting it in, and you know when it's about ready to overflow. Oop. Is that it? No, there's still some room in there. Maybe it's going to hold a whole quart. That looks like it's pretty full too. Get my little flashlight here so I can see. Yep, it's not quite overflowing, but it's right there at the rim. That'll do for that. We'll put a little gas in here and see if this thing thinks that it wants to come back to life. It's really hard to say how long it's been since this engine's been run. When you buy something from an auction and have no history on it, you got no clue, but I would say it's safe to bet that probably most of these got put up in the 50s or 60s. People had electric motors on everything that they needed to, that they used to use to run these off of by the 60s usually. We'll dump a little bit of gas in here and then we'll leak check it. I never leak checked this tank. It looked pretty good when we had it standing up on its back end. But it doesn't take a very big hole for gas to go through, so. Also, I got no way of telling on this how full the gas tank is. And I don't know for sure. The pickup tube should go pretty close to the bottom of the tank, but I don't know exactly how close it goes. Well, it looks like it may have a spot that's just seeping a little bit of gas. It's not even dripping, but I don't know if I can get the camera down there where you can see it. It's got a little bit of moisture on the end of the tank there. I don't think I'm worried enough about that right at this moment to not go ahead and try to run it. We'll look at the front end of the tank here. Yeah, the front end of the tank is bone dry. Nothing's dripping, so I'm going to put a little bit more gas in it and see if it has enough gas to draw the fuel up into the mixer. If it does, we'll try to run it, and then I will get it stood back up on its back end to get a drain plug put back in it, and we'll JB weld where it's seeping fuel there. I'm going to shut the camera off for a minute and see if I've got enough fuel in there that it's drawing some fuel up to the mixer on it. Well, I cranked it over 2 cranks and it was getting fuel at the mixer, so I think that that's enough that it'll run. I'm going to set the camera down here pointing across at it. I'm going to clamp it down to the top of the welding bench so that it can't try to run away if it takes off running real fast. It can't try to get away from us there. And I'm gonna see if this thing will start. There we go. That should. It's gonna have to move the whole damn tabletop to move anything here, so that should be sufficient. Alright, well, let's see if this thing does anything when I start cranking on it here. It doesn't have very much compression right now, but that's because the rings are blowing by. I think once it gets some fresh oil splattering around in there and runs a little bit, they ought to come around on it. Smoking a little. It was smoking a little.
I can smell it.
I wonder if I'm giving it too much fuel, not enough fuel. Dad's standing right smack in front of the camera.
I'll move.
We'll shut the fuel off and crank it a few more cranks and see if I got too much fuel. Well, that seems to be doing nothing, so I'll open the fuel back up a few turns. There, it fired hard enough that it kind of pulled the flywheel a little bit out of my hand. I can tell you, I'm going to be tired before this thing gets started. trying to. I don't know if the camera can see it, but it is puffing a little bit of smoke. We'll move the camera over here where you can see the exhaust on it. But it definitely is puffing a little smoke now. It's trying to, but it's just not quite there yet. That tried a little harder that time. It's getting closer. I'm just messing with the fuel mixture, covering the intake with my thumb, taking it back off, getting it to suck more fuel in. It's getting closer to trying to go. Because it gets old pretty quick spinning this flywheel. Whew, take a break for a minute. It also is kind of at an awkward height, but that's just also kind of making excuses for me getting wore out quickly. Well, it didn't pop at all that time. Oh, I see what's going on. It's not tripping the igniter now. What's going on with that? Oh! Well, that makes a difference. That spring that I said was the first thing I fixed jumped back off there, so the rocker arm's not coming back all the way. Let's put that back on there, and then I'll turn the camera back on. Maybe I'll put that on there and put a zip tie or something around it to hold it in place so it can't skip back off of there. Okay, I got that spring back in there where it belongs. I got a zip tie holding it so it can't skip back out of there. Let's try it again now. If the igniter's clicking again, then hopefully we'll get some spark. There we go, the igniter's tripping. Well, it's sure trying to.
Serious smoke coming out.
Yeah. I just don't know if I'm giving it too much fuel, not enough fuel. time it's getting a little more oomph to it when it kicks. So it's trying to do it. I don't know, maybe it needs more fuel. Every time I choke it and then let go, it puffs a few times and then quits. It just keeps getting a little more promising each time. That pulled the lever clear out of my hand when it fired that time. She wants to go, it's just not quite there yet. Okay, I'm going to see if I can get an electric motor that I've got at home and get some way to clamp it down here to the table, run the belt either around the flywheel or the pulley, and get a little assistance cranking it so that I can get it cranked up to speed and fiddle with the carburetor. I don't have enough hands to keep cranking. Try to get in here and adjust the carburetor and open and close the choke plate and all that stuff at the same time. So I think if I can get it cranking over off of an electric motor, I can start with a fuel clear shut, crack it open, choke it, unchoke it, do all that stuff until I find the magical combination that's gonna make this thing take off and go finally. Okay, this is a little sketchy, but it works. I just had it cranking. We got an old 1/4 horsepower electric motor belted up around the flywheel, which actually spins it faster than I thought it would. I was afraid it'd be spinning too slow off of that small pulley, but it spins it faster than I would have been cranking it. So I'm going to get it cranking. Then after I got it cranking a little bit, I'll have Dad plug the cord in over here. I'm pointing at it, but pointing the camera the other way so you couldn't see it. Have Dad plug the cord in. I'm going to let Willis do the recording now, and then I can get down here and mess with the choke plate and the fuel and try to get this thing to start.
Dennis has got his finger crossed.
Yeah, Dennis is just here for moral support.
In moral support.
Alright, let me get cranking again here and I'll tell you when. Okay. because there's no water in it. That belt ends up in a very peculiar place, and I'm going to not touch it for as long as they're running. Because if it hooks around something, it's going to try to tear stuff up. But the engine is hitting and missing and running for the first time in who knows how many years. Oh goodness, hit the button for the garage door opener. Now I'm going to let it run until the cylinder is too hot for me to put my hand on. Right now, it's barely warm, but we only got a couple minutes of run time. There's no water in there. It sounds pretty good though. Not knocking and banging. There goes the smoke line. Running off the new Magneto. Running off the original igniter. Sounds good. Tomorrow, we'll get a drain plug in here, take it outside, and we'll wash out the rest of the PCU that's in the office, and we'll run again some more tomorrow. I'm very excited about this. Still not too hot in here. I can still hold my hand on the cylinder just fine. That is awesome. Okay, we'll record some more of this tomorrow. Good morning, folks. It's the next day again. We got the John Deere rolled out here close to our drain outside. We're going to try to get the rest of the debris washed out of the hopper and then find some kind of a plug to put back in the bottom of it so I can fill this thing up with water and let it actually sit here and run for more than 2 minutes. There's the water hopper was clear full of mouse nests, and there's a lot of junk in there. I'm filling it up with water and there's barely anything coming out the bottom, and there's no plug in it. Just all the debris that's in there. And look at that water. That is nasty. Let's see if I can stick this screwdriver up in there and break some stuff loose there. Alright, it's gonna require something more than that. I got some kind of stiff wire here I can straighten out and try to get a little farther up in there. If not, I'll have to go in and get something heavier duty than this to fish up in there with and try to get that crud broke loose. There, it's starting to flow. I'm going to take this wire, stick it down from the top and run it in between the sides of the hopper and the cylinder and try to get stuff broke loose in there. It's a gunky mess in there. Once you get it running, every time you drain it out, it'll keep breaking more stuff loose, shaking around. The head's not water cooled on these John Deere engines, so you don't have to worry about getting a restricted water flow to the head and heating the head up on it, so you can just keep running and flushing and running and flushing until you finally get all the debris flushed out of here. You can see down in there, it's holding water on this side, but not on this side over here. So there's definitely some gunk down in there. I'll turn the camera back on after I get done flushing and digging in there trying to get all the debris out. Alright, I got it all flushed out. I guess it's kind of sitting right in the shadow of the trailer here. We've got our white trailer out here to get it cleaned up and ready to go down to Old Threshers. We're taking our first load to Old Threshers in Mount Pleasant, Iowa tomorrow. Anywho, got the engine sitting here, flushed and flushed and flushed, got all the debris washed out of there, put a plug in, filled it up with water. So now I can see how it starts after setting since yesterday. Gotta be careful to not bang my knuckles into the concrete out here. When that flywheel comes around the bottom, it's pretty close down there. Let's see how it starts after setting since the little bit we ran it yesterday. We'll open the fuel valve, about 3 little turns there. Oh shit, there it goes. Well, that was easy enough. Look at that. It's back alive and running nice. Back up a little bit more so you can hear me better. Sitting there running nice. Now that I got water in it, so sit there and run. I'll let it sit there and run for the next hour or so. Give it a chance for them rings to get winded up again. Honestly, it's not smoking too bad at all. That's a pretty reasonable amount of smoke, especially for just being brought back to life after setting for God only knows how many years. Well, I'm just going to leave it sit there and run for a while. I got to run back home to get my truck to load this in the back of. So since Dad will be around here, I'll have him keep an eye on it and just let it sit there and run for a while. That's what it needs. Get everything limbered back up again. I'm going to go get an oil can and hit everything's oil can one more time and then just let it sit here and run for an hour or so. Well, the old John Deere's been sitting there running for over an hour now. We're going to shut it down. Running good. We're going to shut it down and we're going to get it loaded in the back of my 61 Chevy. That's all. Just leave it in there until we go down to Old Threshers and haul it down in the back of the truck. So that's going to be the end of the video for today. Thanks for watching, folks. As always, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you want to help support our channel, the best way you can do that is when the ads come up, just let the ads play. If it's a long ad, let the first 30 seconds play and then you can skip it. That makes it count. We appreciate every person that watches our videos. Thanks for watching. Come on back next week and we'll have a video something here for you to watch.